My mom announced my wedding was cancelled for my brother's party. I replied, okay, then kept the date, cut the guest list, and got married anyway. I am Andrew. I am 36 today, but I was 33 when all of this happened. I work as a litigation attorney in a mid-sized Midwestern city. I believe we have sports teams, but no one vacations here on purpose. I spend the majority of my days fighting over contracts that others did not care to read in windowless meeting rooms and fluorescent lit halls. I am also the older of two children. My younger brother, Tyler, is 28 years old. And if you ask my parents to describe us, they'd say something like, Andrew is dependable. Tyler is special. You can probably hear the golden child alarm siren in the background. I'm recounting this tale today since my wife and I recently celebrated our 3rd anniversary. We went out to dinner, toasted with cheap champagne, scrolled through our wedding photos, and she joked, "Can you believe your mom still tells people we eloped to avoid more conflict?" I laughed and then realized, no, this wasn't eloping, and it certainly wasn't out of spite. It was about finally refusing to be the family's backup plan. Growing up, the roles were rather apparent. I was the child who finished his schoolwork without being asked, remembered permission paperwork, and babysat for free. If something went wrong with the computer, automobile, or relationship, everyone went to Andrew. He will repair it. Tyler was the youngster that only needed a little more time. In high school, he was more accepting about skipping courses. When he forgot to pay his rent in college, he had a little extra cash. He had a bit more freedom when he was job hopping for 4 years since none of his superiors recognized his originality. My folks are not cartoon villains. They're typical suburbanites who worked hard. Dad is an electrician. Mom is a nurse. They paid what they could for my undergraduate studies. And when I enrolled in law school, we all agreed that I would take out loans because money was tight. No harsh sentiments. I signed the paperwork, completed the requirements, and graduated. Tyler then withdrew out of his graphic design degree 2 states away during my 3rd year of law school, claiming that the vibes were wrong. He came home, maxed up my parents' emergency credit card, and damaged their car 6 weeks later. I discovered out about everything when my mother contacted me weeping because the bank was threatening to sue over the card. Their auto insurance premium had increased, and they were overdue on their mortgage. I recall sitting on the floor of my little apartment, outlines and casebooks all about me, listening to her sob into the phone. Andrew, honey, you're so excellent at this. Can you review the paperwork? Consider calling someone. Your brother did not intend it. He just becomes overwhelmed. So I did what I had always done. I drove home that weekend, sorted their bills, phoned the bank, spoke with the vehicle insurance company, produced a simple hardship letter, and set up payment arrangements. I didn't pay my bills. I actually couldn't. But I did give them a route map. I also made the mistake of believing I was excellent at it. Tyler was always making a mess after that. My parents would contact me first for lease troubles, human resource problems, automobile accidents, and bounced checks. Not him but me. Please tell us what to say. Mom would mumble into the speakerphone as Dad grumbled in the background. If I ever proposed that Tyler should also be on the call, the response was always, "He's embarrassed, Andrew. Don't make it harder for him." Fast forward roughly 12 years. I am a mid-level associate at a reputable company. I'm not making a lot of money, but I pay my loans. I live in a condo with genuine matching furniture and shop for food that aren't all generic brand. I met Natalie at a friend's cookout. She is a physical therapist who is kind, witty, and brutally honest in a way that I did not realize I needed. On our 4th date, after I shared a tale about cleaning up one of Tyler's messes, she said, "So, at what point do you let them figure it out themselves?" I dismissed it at the moment. It's just easier if I handle it. She gave me this look. I'm not judgmental, just interested. Who is it easier for? That question remained in the back of my mind for the next 3 years. My folks now liked Natalie. She exudes instant likability, prompting waiters to tell her about their lives. But I could see there was something different right away. When Natalie discussed her younger sister, there were restrictions. No, she cannot crash on our couch for 6 months. She has to learn how to pay rent. No, we are not co-signing her automobile. Hearing that out loud felt like hearing someone speak a language I knew but had never been allowed to use. I proposed to Natalie in a very un-Reddit-worthy manner. We were both fatigued on a Sunday night, laying on the couch when I blurted out, "Do you want to do this forever?" and held out a ring. She smiled and sobbed at the same moment, which is quite on brand for her, and continued, "Yes, our rule from the beginning. We pay for our own wedding, no strings attached. No. We contribute, and we get to invite my coworker from 2001. Nonsense. Her parents offered to cover the rehearsal dinner and her dress. My parents said they'd help where they could, but I didn't expect that. We found a venue we both liked, a brick event space downtown with big windows, exposed beams, and the whole Pinterest industrial chic thing, and booked it for a Saturday in June about 16 months out. We signed contracts with the caterer, photographer, DJ, florist and all the wedding Voltron pieces, and we made a spreadsheet. The total cost, including food, bar, decor, and everything, was about $78,000. For context, we could afford it. We'd both been saving for years, and I had an if my student loans don't kill me first fund that I shifted into the wedding and future house once I refinanced. Tyler started dating Madison about 3 months after we booked the venue. She was nice enough and had the energy of an Instagram influencer, without the actual job. I knew 3 things about her within 10 minutes of meeting her at a family dinner. Tyler and Madison got engaged about 14 months before our wedding. She posted a video of him proposing with a sparkler fountain in the background and the caption, "He finally made it official." Despite the fact that they'd been dating for 8 months, the comments were full of, "Finally." My parents were overjoyed. "We're so happy both of our boys are settling down," Mom said, blotting her tears. "We'll have to figure out the timing so we can properly celebrate for both of you." I grinned. "We've already booked for June 21st next year." She blinked. "You did say that. There are occasions when you reflect and realize they were warning shots. That was one of them." In the months that followed, anything wedding-related turned into a Tyler and Madison show. My mother would call me to ask about our plans, and within 5 minutes, she'd be talking about Madison's Pinterest boards. They're thinking about a destination wedding or something really unique. They just don't want it to feel small. Natalie, who was cooking next to me, raised an eyebrow. I put her on speaker. "Small compared to what?" Natalie asked dryly. Mom backpedaled. "Oh no. I didn't mean your wedding, just in general." Then came the first request. Mom called me one afternoon while I was between depositions. "So honey, your brother was thinking. Maybe you could push your date a little just to give everyone some breathing room. We've already booked everything." I said, "The contracts have been signed. We'd forfeit our deposits." "Perhaps the venue would understand. You are a lawyer. You know how to communicate to people." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Mom, contracts aren't about understanding. They're about dates, money, and signatures." "We agreed on June 21st, she groaned. "You're so rigid sometimes, Andrew. Can't you at least ask?" "No," I said, and it felt like a tiny revolution. "No, I'm not going to ask venues and vendors to reschedule a date we chose over a year ago because Tyler just got engaged." She got quiet. "Your brother feels like you're not happy for him." "I'm happy for him," I said. "His happiness doesn't require me to undo 16 months of planning." We politely ended the call. "Love you, Mom." "Love you too, honey." But I hung up with that familiar knot in my stomach. Over the next few months, a pattern emerged. Every conversation about our wedding turned into a negotiation around Tyler's. "Could you possibly not do a plated dinner? They don't want theirs to look cheaper." "They're treating your wedding like a placeholder," she said one night as we triple-checked our budget, "like something they can move around on a calendar. Would you mind if we had the same color scheme? Madison really likes dusty blue, and it was like our wedding was a spreadsheet cell they needed to edit to make their formulas balance." "It's fine," I said automatically. "They're just excited." She put her hand over mine. "I love you, but please listen to yourself. You always say it's fine when it's very much not fine. It builds slowly like a pressure cooker, a comment here, a guilt trip there. My mother's not-so-subtle hints that as the oldest, I should be flexible and set an example. Apparently being the older brother meant that my adult life remained infinitely rearrangeable around my younger brother's whims. The final straw came on a Tuesday afternoon, 10 weeks before our wedding. I was in my office drafting a motion when my phone buzzed with a family group chat notice. Normally I silence that thing during work hours, but the teaser stated, "Update on the nuptials from my mom," with 2 heart emojis. I opened it. "Family," she wrote. "We are very thrilled to report that Tyler and Madison have chosen their engagement party date. We've chosen to host it on June 21st so that everyone can be together and no one has to travel twice. We'll treat that as the main family event, and then we'll properly celebrate Andrew and Natalie later, when it's less hectic." I stared at the screen, and then another message came in, this time directly to me. "Your wedding date has been canceled, and your brother's engagement party is scheduled for the same day. It makes no sense to split the family. We'll help you find a better time. Cancelled. Like a dental appointment. I sat there in my swivel chair, the hum of the building's air conditioning suddenly very loud, and wondered if I'd misread something. I scrolled back through the group chat through months of messages where I'd mentioned our date, shared photos of the venue, the invites, the fittings, it was all there. I texted Mom back. Clarify. Cancel. You mean you and Dad won't be coming on June 21st? A few dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Andrew, honey, we can't ask people to choose between the two of you. It's selfish. Tyler and Madison's event will most likely be more extravagant, and it's easier logistically to center everyone around that. You and Natalie are more low-key. You'll understand. We'll plan something intimate for you later, maybe in the fall when things are calmer. There it was again. I'd understand. The dependable one, the adaptable one, the one who would rearrange his life so her favorite son didn't have to. Something clicked like a lock sliding into place, and I remembered every time I'd cleaned up their financial chaos while they shielded Tyler from speaking to a single creditor. Natalie, who had spent hours tasting cakes, trying on dresses and dealing with guest lists under the assumption that my family gave at least a fraction of a damn, came to mind whenever I was told, "You're so mature," as if it was a consolation prize rather than actual support. I thought about the contracts in my office, the non-refundable deposits, the cancellation clauses I had actually read, and the fact that none of those documents said anything about the younger brother's social calendar. I typed one sentence back. "That's fine," Mom said almost instantly, "knowing you'd understand. You're such a good big brother. We'll talk soon about new dates." I put my phone face down, leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. Strangely, I wasn't angry in the explosive way you'd expect. It was more like someone had pulled a very old splinter out of my skin, and the pain felt clean. That night I told Natalie everything. I handed her my phone and let her read the thread in quiet. She finished, gently placed the phone down and looked at me. "Okay," she said. "We have alternatives." "Option 1, I replied, half jokingly. "We cancel the wedding, elope to Vegas, and send them a postcard." "Tempting," she added. "Option 2, we relocate it and bend over backwards to maintain the peace, and you despise them forever." "Hard pass." She paused, her eyes narrowing slightly in the way she does at the gym when she's about to add more weight than the trainer suggested. "Option 3 is that we stop acting like they own the day just because they share your DNA." I blinked. "What does that look like practically?" "You're the lawyer," she said. "What do the contracts say?" So we pulled up the folder on my laptop. Venue, full amount due 45 days before, no date changes without a 40% penalty. Caterer, paid in installments, non-refundable. Photographer, retainer, non-refundable. DJ, florist, rentals, same story. Long version, I said. If we cancel or move the date, we eat a lot of money. And short version, she asked. I closed the laptop. Short version. The wedding is on June 21st. She smiled slowly. Good. Now we just decide who's invited to the wedding we're already paying for. We didn't make some grand revenge plan, no dramatic speeches, no ultimatums. That's not our style. Instead, we did something my family genuinely did not expect. We treated our wedding as if it were our own, and over the next week, we quietly reduced our guest list from about 135 to 90. Mostly Natalie's family, our close friends, and a few of my relatives who had consistently treated me like a human being rather than an emergency hotline. We'd already sent save the dates but no formal invitations, and my mother had insisted on including as many people as possible. We met with the venue, and as calmly as I argue emotion, I explained that there could be some family drama. If anyone shows up and says the event is cancelled, they are mistaken. The only people authorized to make decisions are Natalie and me. The coordinator, a woman in her 50s who had clearly seen some things, nodded slowly. Natalie and I are keeping the June 21st booking. Just so you know. We've had situations like this before, so we'll have security at the door with the guest list, and no one will return to the ceremony space unless you've approved them. I sent my parents one more text to be technically transparent. We understand you'll be hosting Tyler's engagement party that day. We'll miss having you there, but we're not changing our plans. She called within 30 seconds. Andrew, what do you mean you're keeping it? We just told everyone it's not happening. Then tell them it is, I said, my voice steady even to my own surprise. That's not fair, she said. Family comes first. We can't split everyone like that. It's selfish. I took a breath. Mom, you didn't ask us before you announced your plans. You told me my wedding was canceled without even checking the contracts or knowing how much it would cost. You made a decision, I'm making mine. The day is set. We're getting married. She started crying, then became angry in the middle. You're doing this to punish us. To punish Tyler. You know he's always struggled, and you've always handled things better. Can't you be generous just this once? Mom, I said softly. I've been just this once for 12 years. Silence. I'm not asking you to cancel anything. I went on. If you want to make the engagement party the major family event, go for it. People may attend one or both, if they truly want to go back and forth. But we're not rescheduling our wedding around my brother's engagement party. I said. We would love to have you there, but we're proceeding either way. We ended the call with that awful, brutal politeness that feels sharper than yelling. In the weeks that followed, I heard through the grapevine from an aunt who does not believe in discretion that my parents were telling everyone we'd postponed our wedding, that we were being sensitive about overlapping dates, and that I was possibly not ready yet. And that's why I agreed to focus on Tyler first. I didn't correct them, not because they were wrong, but because arguing with a false narrative they needed to protect themselves wasn't my job anymore. I'd already spent too many years being the family fact-checker, so I focused on Natalie, work, logistics, and living my life. The week of the wedding, I took the days off, blocked in my calendar as trial prep because lawyers are strangely more respected when they're allegedly in court. Natalie also took time off. We confirmed with every vendor, triple-checked the ceremony time, and dropped off decorations at the venue. 3 days before, Mom texted, "Don't forget Tyler's engagement party starts at 3:30 on Saturday. We'll take shots sooner, everyone's so excited." I stared at it, showed it to Natalie, and we both just shook our heads. Our ceremony was at 2:30 p.m. The morning of our wedding, I woke up before my alarm. The hotel room was dim, the city still quiet. For a moment, that old familiar anxiety stirred. Am I doing something terrible? Am I breaking my family? Then Natalie rolled over, hair a mess, eyes half open, and muttered, "You're thinking too loudly." I laughed nervously, but also strangely calmly. "We're not doing anything wrong, Andrew." "I know," I said. "I just wish it didn't have to be this split." She reached for my hand. "Your parents caused the split when they told you your wedding was canceled. We're just refusing to disappear. I won't bore you with every detail, but here are some highlights. My best friend tying my tie and saying, 'Dude, you look like you actually sleep sometimes.' Natalie walking down the aisle in a dress that made half the room cry. The officiant smiling as we stumbled over one line in our vows and then laughed together. The way the light came through the big warehouse windows as we said I do. My side of the room looked different than I'd once imagined. Fewer relatives, more colleagues and friends. My Aunt Susan, who had quietly texted, "I'll be there wherever you say, honey." My cousin who drove in from another state without telling my parents from Natalie's side. We took photos, ate, and danced. Natalie looked up at me and whispered, "Are you okay?" I knew I was. I truly was. Around 5:45 p.m., while people were still on the dance floor, my phone buzzed on the table next to the cake. I glanced at it. 9 missed calls from Mom and Dad, several from Tyler, and a flurry of text previews. I didn't pick up. We had arranged for a car to take us straight from the reception to the airport. Our flight was at 9:15 p.m. that evening, and as we left, people tossed biodegradable confetti, courtesy of Natalie's Eco-Arrier sister. We slid into the back seat, both a little tipsy, exhausted and giddy. "Ready for our very special, very notensold trip?" Natalie asked, grinning. "Ready?" I said. As we boarded, we turned our phones to airplane mode. We had a 10-day honeymoon in Belize, which we could afford because I had declined an extra videographer package and Natalie had found ridiculously cheap flights. We didn't turn our phones back on until the next morning, when we were eating breakfast on a balcony overlooking a ridiculous amount of greenery. My screen exploded from Mom. "We drove to the venue to stop this, but they said you were already married and gone. This is not how family behaves. You surprised us." Tyler. "Wow, man. Couldn't let me have my day. You made my mother cry at my engagement party." The engagement party, by the way, had apparently started late because my parents had first driven to our wedding venue to put a stop to this nonsense. By the time they returned, a bunch of guests were confused, the caterer was annoyed, and Madison was furious that her photo schedule had been ruined. Aunt Susan provided commentary once more. I sat there on that balcony, the sounds of the jungle strangely soothing, and scrolled through the messages. My heart pounded, but not from panic, but from adrenaline and relief mixed. Natalie washed my face. Was it bad? I said. Intense. I handed her the phone. She read, lips pressed together, then nodded once. Do you want to respond now? Later? Not at all. I thought about it. I'm a lawyer, and I don't like leaving things ambiguous forever. But I also didn't want to get into an all-caps argument over WhatsApp, so I typed one group message to my parents and Tyler. I'm sorry you're upset, Natalie. And I told you months ago that we were keeping our wedding on June 21st, but you chose to plan another event on the same day, and tell people our wedding was canceled without our consent. We proceeded with the date we had booked and paid for, and we would have loved to have you there. That offer still stands for future milestones if healthy boundaries are followed. I read it out loud to Natalie. Is it too harsh? I asked. It's factual, she said. You're not insulting anyone. You're describing what happened. I hit send. Mom responded almost immediately, despite my earlier statement that we wouldn't be on our phones. I can't believe you're playing the victim. You embarrassed us in front of everyone. Don't bother coming back for a while. I turned the phone face down and gazed out at the woods. Natalie grabbed for my hand again. Are you okay? I honestly responded. Yeah, for the first time, I think I am. In the weeks after we returned, the fallout unfolded predictably. We went low contact with my parents, no blocking, just stepping back. If they texted accusatory paragraphs, I didn't engage. If they texted something neutral, hope you're well, I responded politely. I refused to relitigate the decision. Extended family began to reach out quietly. My aunt called. For what it's worth, she said. Your mom told everyone you'd agreed to postpone. When Susan and I realized your invitations hadn't changed, we put two and two together. We're proud of you for standing your ground. A cousin DM'd me on Instagram. Your wedding looked amazing. I'm sorry. I believed the postponement story. If I'd known, I would have been there. Even a handful of my parents' friends whom I had known since infancy sent cards addressed just to us, with phrases like, "We heard there was some uncertainty. We're glad. You and Natalie did what was best for you." Meanwhile, Tyler and Madison had their own issue. Apparently, during the engagement party, numerous people inquired why my wedding was canceled, and someone let it go. No, it hadn't. My parents had just decided not to go. Madison was furious that her special day had been overshadowed by questions about us, and Tyler was furious at me for causing it, despite the fact that I was physically in another country. I didn't respond to his angry texts beyond one message, and I didn't ask my parents to drive me to my venue. Tyler and Madison's wedding took place on a completely different date about 18 months later, and we were technically invited. The invitation came with a sticky note from Mom, and it would mean a lot if you made an effort to put things behind us. We sent a lovely gift from their registry. We didn't go because I had a trial that week, but even if I hadn't, we weren't ready to pretend everything was normal just so they could take pretty pictures. Things eventually settled down, but not in a storybook way, but in a real, slightly messy adult way. My relationship with my parents is now distant. Natalie and I bought a small, squeaky house and filled it with photos of people who actually showed up for us, not those who attempted to cancel our